In this lesson, we are going to learn about Power BI basic data transformations. Typically, Power BI is going to perform certain data transformations automatically. These transformations are like setting the first row as header or changing the data type for each and every column. Since we want to practice all these steps manually, we have to make some settings in Power BI file so that Power BI is not going to perform all these steps automatically. In order to do that, what we have to do is we have to go to File and then Options and Settings. Within Options and Settings, go to Options. Within Options, we have two types of options. One is Global Options, the other one is Current File Options. If we make any changes to global options, those changes are going to be applicable for all the Power BI files within the system, so don't do any changes here. For this demo purpose, we are going to make some changes to data load settings under the current file. Typically what happens is that Power BI is going to detect the column types and detect the relationships automatically. So let's deselect all these options for us to get an opportunity to practice these options manually. Then say OK. For this demo, we are going to connect to Excel data source. In order to connect to Excel data source, we can use import data from Excel option from the main canvas, or from the data section, we can use get data, or we can use Excel workbook option from the data menu. For this demo, let's use import data from Excel in the main canvas and connect to Super Retailer Sales Excel file from basic transformations folder. Select the data source. Now Power BI is establishing the connectivity with the data source and detecting all the queries available in that file. In this case, it seems that there are about 5 queries within the file. And for this demo, we are going to use sales data. Select the sales data. Whenever we select a query on the left side, on the right side, we are going to see the data preview. Power BI is providing this data preview based on the first 100 records in the data source or in the query. It appears that it's a sales data with 8 columns, and we have columns like date, chain, category, and bunch of numbers. At this point, if the data is clean and ready to use in the reporting, we can directly load the data to the data model using load option. Or if you want to transform the data, we can use a transform tab. Select the transform data. Now Power BI is opening the Power Query editor to transform the data. In Power Query, we have many menus to transform the data, like we have home, transform, add columns. Within each menu, we have many sub menus to transform the data. We are going to learn all these options one after another in the coming lessons. For now, let's focus on the query properties and other data transformation activities. On the right side, we have properties menu. Within that, we have the query name. Right now, query name is sales underscore table. Typically, we are going to go with the plain English name. Since it's a sales data, rename it as sales. And next, let's review the data in the data view or table view. If we notice the column names are not right, we have generic columns like column 1 to column 8. And it appears that our first column is in row 1. So what we have to do is we have to promote the first row as header. For that, you can select any place in the table view or data view and then use the option use first row as header. With this, we have promoted our first row as header, and now we have proper column headings. The next step that we typically need to do is that we have to review each and every column in the table and set the right data type for each and every column. Let's do that activity. The first column is date, but the data type for the date is text. In order to change this one to be a proper date, select the date and change the data type from the context menu. And from the context menu, select date. Now we have transformed the date data type from text to a proper date. Whenever we perform a certain activity in the data view or table view, the transformation will get recorded as applied step. You can see that one. For example, go to previous step. The data type for this one is the text. And after changing the data type, it's a proper date type. This is how we can change the data type. Now let's do the same activity for other columns also. This time select chain and category. Ideally, they should be of character type or text. So select those two columns and then from the menu, transform menu, use data type as text. If you notice, there are multiple ways to do the same task. Either from context menu, you can change the date, or from the top menu, you can select a proper data type. Now let's look into postcode. Postcode can be of type text or a whole number. Let's choose this one to be a whole number. So select it. And now we have a bunch of numeric fields. Total units. Since we are going to buy any item in a whole number, change it one to be a whole number. The next three columns are of type currency. In Power Query, we have a data type of hexadecimal number. So select all three columns in one go and change the data type to a hexadecimal number. So what have we done so far? We have gone through each and every column and set the proper data type to each and every column. But we have done it manually. Fortunately, there is another way to do it in one go. So for that, what we can do is let's undo what we have done so far related to data type changes. If you want to set the data type for all columns in one go, first we need to select all columns of the table. For that, use Ctrl A from the keyboard and go to Transform tab. Use Type Detection automatically. Now Power BI has changed the data type for each and every column. Let's review the data types. First, date. Chain is a text. Postcode whole number. Category text. For the last three columns, Power BI set these columns as decimal numbers. We can leave this one as is, or we can change these data types to be FX decimal number. If you want to change the data types for all these three columns in one go, select those columns and go to Home and then change that one to be FX decimal number. While changing, Power BI is going to prompt you whether you want to replace the current step or you want to add a new step. Let's go for adding a new step. But the step name is very generic. If you want to rename the step name to be a specific name, you can right click on the step and rename it to whatever the name that you want to rename to. Let's say to number. It's better to go with a specific name for the step so that it will be easy for us to debug at the later stage. There is a lot to cover in Power BI basic transformations. We will continue in the next lesson. Thank you.